Mockingbird and Liarbird by Rei Wakayami on AO3. Chapter 20. They land in front of a hospital not too far from the flight, and Hawks quickly escorts them into the building. He explains what happens, and they get checked in and escorted out into the room with two beds. Hawks follows the whole way. As soon as they get situated, a doctor tried to look over them as a nurse helps. Izuku reaches for the remote on the side table frantically, turning, ignoring the man asking him questions. Izuku turns on the TV, flipping through channels before he finds what he's been looking for. The helicopter that passed them is hovering over the scene of a fight, and Izuku could only stare in shock at the devastation on screen. The doctor and nurse fall silent, Katsuki coming over to his bed to stare at the screen in shock. Half of a block of buildings are rubble, and as they watch, another chunk collapse from an attack. Shit, Hawks hisses. Go, Katsuki growls at the hero. I was told to help you, Hawks murmurs, but his golden eyes are narrowed. We're safe, Izuku says quickly. Go help them, he demands, and finally, after a long, drawn-out second, he nods and disappears from the room. They watch the fight unfold on screen, and not even a minute later they see Hawks appear on the scene, darting in and out to evacuate civilians from the rubble who were caught in the fight. He and Katsuki, who watch silently as the other heroes are forced back, until it's just All Might and All for One fighting. The heroes standing against such awesome and overwhelming power. Izuku shaking, breath hitched as the number one hero gets pushed around like nothing. And then one attack strikes true as the hero stands firm, planting himself in the path of the attack to protect someone. Hawks diving in to extract them, but it's too late. The camera zooms in on All Might, his emancipated form, on view for all to see. Izuku distantly hears murmurs in the halls, people shouting to turn on the TV as the whole hospital watches the fight unfold. Izuku doesn't even realize he's crying until he feels the tears drip onto his hand. Watching, All Might fight for his life. Katsuki screaming at the screen, shouting All Might's name angrily as the man, with one last swing of his fist, with everything he has left behind it, takes down All for One for good, the villain not getting up. A sob tears from Izuku's throat, as the number one hero just stands there, teeing on his feet, but keeps standing and holds up a fist. Katsuki screams and yells, breaks out through the hospital, people chanting All Might's name. Izuku can only press his hands to his mouth and sob, vision blurring with his tears as All Might's career comes to an end. Eventually, the mayhem dies down as hospital staff goes rushing down the halls. One pokes their head into the room. We just got word. We've got ambulance en route from the fight, heroes and civilians. It's all hands on deck, the woman informs them. We'll be there shortly, their doctor says, and gets Katsuki into his bed as he and the nurse quickly finish their exam, inserting an IV into both their arms to give them fluids. We have to go, but there will be someone on the floor if you need something. Just press the call button, the doctor instructs, and Izuku nods silently before they rush out to go get help and help the incoming wounded. Silence descends the room. The TV is still on, the helicopter still hovering over the ruined ward as they report on the rescue efforts of the heroes still present at the scene. Izuku watches closely, but the camera doesn't show a close enough image to pick out who is who unless they have a distinct outfit. An hour passes in silence. A nurse stops in to check on them before leaving. When asked, she informs them that they've been starting diverting patients to other hospitals. Their rooms full up with injured people. She doesn't know which heroes were brought in either. Izuku stares out the window quietly, lost in thought, when the door abruptly opens, without a knock, and they both jump, turning to look, and Izuku nearly collapses in relief as Aizawa walks in. He's got a nasty cut over his right brow that's bleeding heavily, with a bruise turning dark on his cheek and jaw. His right arm is a makeshift sling created by his capture scarf. He's filthy and obviously exhausted, but he looks relieved at seeing them. Eraser-san, you really need to be checked over, a nurse is saying behind the pro. I'm fine, there are people who need help right now more than me. Come back for me. Aizawa grumbles, marching into the room. Sensei, Izuku whispers shakily. Their teacher grabs a nearby chair with his uninjured arm and collapses into it with a groan. The nurse huffs angrily but follows him into the room, rummaging in a cabinet to pull items to use. Dragging over a wheel tray, she quickly cleans the cut of his head to examine it. You'll need stitches, but I don't have time or the tools to do that, she murmurs and quickly slaps a gauze on and taps it down. Try not to bleed out until we can, she orders. A flashlight comes out to examine his eyes. You've got a concussion too. I'm aware, Aizawa murmurs, wincing at the bright light. Deft, but gentle hands define his arms. This is broken and dislocated. I'll send someone to do that as soon as they're free, she says with a huff before stepping away. Boys, make sure he doesn't fall asleep until we can get his head injury checked out, she orders. Yes, ma'am, Izuku says, Katsuki nodding with a huff. With that, the nurse leaves, shutting the door behind her. What happened? Aizawa groans, but sits up straighter. All for One has been taken into custody, but the rest of the League managed to escape through a warp gate, Aizawa informs them. All Might? Katsuki asks in a subdued voice. He's being seen to in the hero ward, but he'll live, Aizawa informs them. However, his days as an active hero are done. Katsuki growls and curses under his breath, hands fisting tightly in his lap. Oh, Izuku whispers. Did we do this? Izuku asks, mind whirling around everything that had happened. Did they cause All Might to retire? Maybe if they've gotten away sooner or hadn't needed help getting away or... Hey, Aizawa snaps out harshly, and Izuku looks up. It is not your fault, either of you, he says fiercely, dark eyes boring into them and making the words stick. You didn't cause this. But, Izuku whispers, no buts, problem child. Aizawa says gently, the fact of the matter is, All Might has been on borrowed time for a while now. This was bound to happen sooner or later. This fight just made it sooner, Aizawa says. What do you mean? Katsuki asks, and Izuku remembers his talk with All Might about the injury he took. A few years back he was badly injured, to the point it limited him in how long he could do hero work. Unfortunately, that is the life of a hero. You either live long enough for your body to give out and force you to retire, or you die saving someone. It's only a matter of time before his injury forced him to retire. This is not your fault, Aizawa says again. It was the villain, All for One. He said something about them fighting before and they injured each other. Izuku says. So it would seem, Aizawa says with a sigh and slumps back in his chair. He tilts his head back against the wall and groans. Sensei, don't go to sleep, Izuku says softly. I'm not going to sleep, Aizawa murmurs, one dark eye peeling open to glare at them. I know what to do with a concussion. This isn't my first one. Smiling faintly, Izuku glances over at Katsuki to see the teen staring down at his hands, contemplatively, a frown marging his brow. Izuku leans back on his own bed, the last few days catching up to him, and he discreetly wipes at his eyes, as a few tears escape. Hitoshi is nearly vibrating with impatience as Hisashi pulls into the hospital parking garage. It's filled with vehicles, but Hisashi bad passes the lower floors and finds the section reserved for Hero and Parks. Shota had finally gotten a hold of them at the hospital where the last of the students been cared for. They had all watched All Might's last battle, screaming at the screens in shock and grief. He explained that Izuku and Bakugo had been recovered and had given them the address to the Camino hospital they had been taken to. Hisashi walks with him into the hospital, and they find barely contained chaos as people rush about, seeing to all the injured people in the fight. Hisashi pulls off to the side of the hall as a bed is wheeled past with someone groaning on it. Doctors and nurses moving with it. They're in room 808, Hisashi informed him softly. Inko should be almost here. The trains aren't running, so she had to come by cab, and it might take a few minutes to get around the traffic and roadblocks. Let Sho know I'll be up with her as soon as she arrives. Hisashi says with a fragile smile, no doubt wanting to rush up to see his husband, but needing to be there for Izuku's mother, too. I will, Hitoshi says, quickly, hugging his dad before rushing down the hall as at a fast walk, dodging around people until he finds the elevator and takes it to the 8th floor. It's a little quieter up here, not as much chaos as nurses and doctors seem to patient up there. It's not hard to find the right room. Following the signs, he soon finds his dad standing out in the hall with what looks like an officer, his hand in a cask and a bandage around his dad. A dark bruise starts on his cheek and disappears under his jawline. Dad! Hitoshi calls out, rushing up, and Shota quickly pulls him into a hug with his good arm. His hand cradles Hitoshi's head as he just holds him. Are you okay? Hitoshi asks, pulling back. I'll be fine. Nothing recovery girl can't fix later. Shota reassures him. Pops is waiting downstairs for Izuku's mom. She's on her way. Hitoshi explains when his dark eyes sweep the hall for Hisashi. Ah, of course. Shota says with a nod. He nods towards the room behind him. Izuku's in there. He was awake the last time I checked on him. I'll be out here if you need me, he murmurs. Thanks, Hitoshi says and gives him one last hug, before pulling away a little reluctantly to walk towards the door. A soft knock, and he opens the door, peeking in. Green Eyes glance his way, and Hitoshi feels a knot in his chest unwind as he sees his friend alive and in one piece. Toshi, Izuku says with a tired and wan smile. Hitoshi steps in, shutting the door behind him. There's a second bed that is empty. Kachan is talking with the police and giving a statement. I already did mine, Izuku explains, when he sees where Hitoshi is looking. Hitoshi's heart is beating heavily in his chest. So many emotions twisting inside. Relief, anger, happiness, frustration, fear, all clamoring for attention. Are you okay? Hitoshi asks, coming closer. I'm okay, Izuku whispers. Just some scrapes and bruises, a few minor burns. Hitoshi nods, can feel his hand shaking slightly, and just reaches out to pull him into a bone-crushing hug. You need to stop doing this, Hitoshi whispers harshly, breathing ragged as Izuku cleans back. Every time I'm not there, you keep disappearing or getting in trouble. I'm sorry, Izuku whispers. It happened so fast. You got my message? Yeah, I got it, Hitoshi says with a nod. May saves the day, again, he says with a wet chuckle. Gods, I was so fucking scared you wouldn't come back, Hitoshi admits, throat getting tight. I'm here, Toshi, Izuku says firmly, pulling back a bit to stare at him, eyes wide and wet but still smiling. I'm not going anywhere, not without you. Hitoshi doesn't even know what pushes him as she just surges forwards and kisses Izuku's, hands cradling his face as he breathlessly shakes against his mouth before he realizes what's happening and he pulls back with wide eyes. Hitoshi minds blank on what to say. Izuku looks stunned, still staring at him with wide eyes. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Hitoshi, quickly starts to ramble, fear curling in his gut, and he just ruined everything. I was just worked up and adrenaline and can you can you forget this happened? Hitoshi stutters out, trying to pull away from his friend. The longer he goes without saying anything. He pulls up short, Izuku's hands clutched in the cloth of his shirt and not letting go. Toshi, Izuku whispers, eyes still wide. I understand if you don't, feel this way, Hitoshi says, rubbing at the back of his head. We can just be friends and forget this happened, so. Hitoshi says quickly. I don't want to forget, Izuku says quietly, and Hitoshi freezes, staring at his friend to see pink flushing his face, eyes darting around as he lets go of Hitoshi's shirts to fidget with the hospital band they put on him. Izuku, Hitoshi whispers, heart lurching a little bit as hope takes root, and sees Izuku shyly peek up at him. Can I kiss you again? Hitoshi asks, taking a bit of a leap, and Izuku nods. This time, Hitoshi goes slowly and just presses a soft kiss against his mouth, hand shaking and hovering, not sure what to do with them, even as Izuku presses against the kiss a bit. They break apart, and Izuku chuckles a little, grinning even as his cheeks burn brightly. Hitoshi is sure he's grinning like a Looney Tune. The moment is ruined when Izuku yawns widely, and Hitoshi feels his own yawn respond, the last few days finally catching up with him. Izuku grabs at his shirt and pulls him onto the bed with him. Don't go anywhere, please, Izuku asks, and Hitoshi nods, wrapping his arms around Izuku to hug him close. The bed isn't the most comfortable, but he doesn't care. Izuku is a line of warmth along his side, head pillowed on Hitoshi's chest, and Hitoshi isn't moving anytime soon. He fights sleep, giddily with the fact that Izuku likes him back, but eventually sleep claims him too, and he eventually stumbles into its pull. They don't wake up until the next morning and ignore the disgusted glare Bakugo sends them. Izuku will admit, he cried when his mother came in the next morning and hugs him. They both do. The Midori household is not afraid of their tears, and they shed a lot of them that morning as Inko released all her pent-up stress and worry over him. She also hugs Hitoshi, who ends up caught in the mist, the boy flushing, but not fighting the hug as she fusses over him as well. After being checked over by the doctor and found well enough to be discharged, Inko takes off to do just that with Yamada and Hitoshi, while Aizawa escorts Izuku and Katsuki up a few floors to the hero wing to see All Might, who is awakened well enough to have visitors. Izuku cries some more when the formal hero hugs them and expresses relief over their safety. Even Katsuki looks a little damp in the eyes as he accepts All Might's hug. When they return to their room, they find it's crowded with not only his mother and Hitoshi, but with Mitsuki and Masaru, who had finally arrived after fighting through the mess that is Kamino right now. Mitsuki instantly pulls Katsuki into a bone-cracking hug, giving him her own pent-up anger love as she yells at him for being so reckless and worrying so much. Katsuki endures it, and Izuku notices the way his hands are clenching in her blouse. Masaru hugs him as well, and then they turn on Izuku, hugging him too, and Izuku accepts the scolding as well, before Mitsuru quickly turns on his mother, hugging her. Mitsuki and Masaru soon grab the doctor, and once it's confirmed that Katsuki can be discharged, they head off to that. Izuku, sweetie, we're leaving now, Inko says with a happy smile. Okay, Izuku whispers and turns back to Katsuki. I'll see you later, Kachan, he says softly. Whatever, Katsuki growls, but there's not as much venom as there used to be in it. Izuku nods and follows his mother. Hitoshi and Hasashi out. I'll catch a ride from Namuri, Aizawa explains, when they remain by the door. There are still a few more things, to tie up here on my end, and I'm still waiting for my scans to come before I can be discharged. Hisashi looks torn between getting Izuku, Inko, and Hitoshi home and staying with Aizawa. I'll be fine, Sashi, Aizawa murmurs, stepping closer to press a kiss on his cheek. Nem will keep you updated, and me in the line when I'm inevitably snap at the idiotic doctors, he murmurs. And you call them problem children. Hisashi shoots back, but he still smiles, if a little smaller than usual. Call me as soon as you're on your way back. I will, Aizawa reassures him. You two, try and stay out of trouble for a few days at least, he says to Izuku and Hitoshi. They both nod. We'll check up on you two later, he adds to Inko, who nods with a smile. The group, after many farewells, leaves and heads for Hisashi's car. Inko takes the front seat while Izuku and Hitoshi take the back. Izuku slowly slides his hand across the middle seat between them, keeping his eyes ahead, and grins with a blush when he feels fingers lace with his. A quick glance shows Hitoshi is also flushed, but smiling as he looks out the window. Neither sees Hisashi's sharp eyes taking in what happened in the back seat, or the knowing look Inko sends the blonde. I'm not allowed to leave the apartment for protection, they say, Inko murmurs as he and Hitoshi lounge on his bed, holding hands. I'm going a bit stir-crazy here. Maybe we could come pick you up and you could come over to our place, Hitoshi offers, turning to look at the other teen. I'd like that. Plus, you have the gym and I could really go for a run on a treadmill just to burn off some excess energy, Izuku says with a grin, before he grows serious. Did you see the letter in the mail? Izuku asked softly. About the dorms? Yeah, Dad and Pops have been running themselves ragged to get everything ready. We're gonna have to pack up most of our apartment and move into campus into the teachers' dorms, Hitoshi says with a sigh. What did your mom say about them? He asks. Izuku shrugs. She's been tight-lipped about it. I think I really scared her with what happened, Izuku whispers. The paper says dorms are mandatory to stay enrolled. What if she doesn't want me in the dorms? He asks, voice worried. I'm sure we could convince her, Hitoshi says, nudging Izuku's side with his elbow. She knows how much this means to you. She won't just take it away. I hope so, Izuku whispers. Hey, Hitoshi says, changing the subject. Izuku turns his head to look at him, and Hitoshi flushes a bit. Once you're able to leave and things calm down, would you like to go on a date with me? He asks the last part quickly. Izuku blinks, and then flushes as a grin spreads across his face. I'd like that, Izuku says, and Hitoshi grins back, squeezing the hand in his happily. Boys, lunch is ready, Inko calls out, and they get up to go eat, still grinning like loons. This was such a cute fanfic to do, and I'm so happy I was able to do it. And I will tell you guys, there is a sequel that the author is making. I have already asked for permission. It is still not done, and I have still not received the ask. I checked right now if there was a sequel, because I didn't check that in the beginning, and there is a sequel. There is 5 chapters out so far. I didn't know that. I literally just asked before I started doing this outro. I already sent the message and asked. Now I'm just going to be waiting for the reply and when they finished. So far there's only 5 chapters, and the last time they updated was the 5th of this year, of 2023. So I don't think it's not gonna get abandoned or anything. That is good odds, probably just taking a little bit of a break, a little bit of a month break, but whatever. It was a really good fanfic. I will say that ending was super cute. It had me tearing up of happiness, because they're finally happy. And I'm pretty sure the second series is just gonna be, just saw the tag PTSD. Okay. Okay. Right, well, okay. Thank you so much for joining me in this journey. I know a lot of you like this series, Mockingbird and Liarbird. Now, the second series I'm going to do that is going to be put in place of this one, so at 6 p.m. PSC, I'm going to be posting this new series, which is Villainous Heroics, which is a fanfic that is an Eraser Mike fanfic. A villain, Hitoshi, and hero, Aizawa, Shota. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and thank you so much for listening to this, and I will be leaving down the link of the sequel of this fanfic, right? We have Mockingbird and Liarbird, and then the sequel is called Adding to the Flock. I'll be adding the link down in the description for you guys to enjoy, because I know that this fic is really good, and I know I'm going to be reading this. I'm not going to wait till it's fully finished so I can record it. Nah. I'm reading. Not leaving in this cliffhanger. I'm reading. With or without you. And by with or without you, I mean without you. I mean, like, with, if you guys decide to read it. But, like, with or without you, I am reading this. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Join our community Discord server. Link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content. And thank you so much for watching.